Okay, so in part 2 of this tutorial, we're going to be continuing on with our macaroons. We're going to start with the purple one, and then at the end, when we're done all of them, we'll come back and we'll do any final touches, we'll add our highlights, and that's the stage sort of where you can, put your reference photo away, look at your artwork, and decide what's going to make yours look better. So everything for this project will be listed in the description down below. I will have a link for part 1 if you want to go see how we did the background and the first little macaroon up here. But we're going to go ahead and start with the purple one today. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the 902. And I'm going to start putting this in where the white part of our macaroon is over here. And I'm sort of focusing it just on the top and the bottom parts where the shadows are, and then we'll go over with our white after. Now I'm probably going to end up speeding up, most of the repetitive parts here, but I will make sure that I show you it, how I'm doing it. And I'll try not to speed it up too much. And we're going to go in with our white, and this is just the 001. And we're just going to layer over that. Now I am pushing a little bit harder here, just so that it blends nicely, but once we get all of our other colors in, it won't look so dark. Right now, for like a white area, it looks pretty dark, but okay. So I'm going to start now with the 112, and I'm going to start filling in up here. And I'm going to take just a little bit of that white, and there's sort of like a highlight in this area. I'm just going to glaze a little bit of this over first. So that as we lay our other color on top, it'll still stay a little bit brighter. There. So we'll continue with this one. And as always, I'm doing a light to medium pressure. And I'm just going to extend this white area just a little bit. And all it's doing is sort of acting as a little bit of a resist. And I'm pushing a little bit harder at the edges, just where I want those sharp edges to go. And I'm going to go in with my 120, and that's going to be part of this shadow up here. And I'm extending the purple up into this shadow area just a little bit as well. Okay. Now I'm going to take this and start going into some of our shadow areas down here, because a lot in the purple is really dark. So I'm just going to go over all of our little shadow areas. And I'm going to start laying this color in to this area here. And I'm going to put it a little bit darker right in the middle here, and then sort of glaze it into these areas. Because they're not quite white, but they're not quite as dark as this. Now I'm going to take the 159 and just go into a couple of these areas where they're the darkest. And I'm not putting a lot of pressure at all. I'm just glazing so that there's a little bit of a difference in some of these areas, but I don't want it to be that noticeable. So just areas that are like almost black, but not really. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to that 112, and I'm going to start filling in the rest of the areas here. And I'm going to go right over my dark areas, but I'm going to sort of avoid this area here where the white and the gray was. Now in these areas, I'm just going to lightly glaze over them. And same right here. And then I'm going to go back in with that white and just sort of start blending them together, just where the lighter areas here and here. And then I'm just going to continue filling in down here. Okay, so I'm going to go back in with that 120, and I just left a little bit of a gap here where our darkest shadows are going to go. So I'm going to lay this down here. I'm going to go back in with that 112 and just make sure this area here is going to blend out nicely. Then I'm going to go in with the 159, and I'm going to focus this on just the bottom third of our shadow area here and right in here. Okay, then I think we're ready to blend this one out. So again, I'm going to take my Gamsol Mineral Odorless Spirits, but you can use whatever blending method that you prefer. And I'm going to start with the lightest areas in here. And then I'm going to start with the lightest area up here and just work my way from light to dark. So we'll leave our purple one there for now, and we'll move on to our blue one. Okay, so I'm going to go in with the 661, and I'm going to focus this sort of on the top and the bottom of this icing part, and I'm going to leave the middle areas free right now. Okay, then I'm going to go in with the 002, and I'm going to just glaze this over the whole area here. Then I'm going to go in with the 001, or white, and I'm just going to sort of focus this in the middle where I see some of the highlighter areas, so more like right here. And it's just because as we blend this out, I just want this area to stay a little bit lighter, a little bit brighter. Okay. So now I'm going to start with that 159, our darkest area, and I'm going to start with that. Then I'm going to go in with the 162, and I'm going to sort of feather that out in these areas to help blend it a little bit. I'm also going to take this one, the 162, and start putting this into some of our dark areas. I'm going to take that 159 and I'm just going to lightly glaze that just on the bottom area of this darker shadow here. And just in a couple little spots up here where I see like a couple little darker edges, and I don't want to make it too dark, but just a couple little spots here and there just for some variety. Now I'm going to take that 171 and I'm sort of going to focus that in like this top half area here and this bottom top half area down here. And I'm just going to go over everything in these areas. Now I'm going to take the 161 and fill in the rest of the areas. I'm just going to go back to that 162 and just darken up any areas that I feel might need it. Just a couple little places. Because I do want there to be a difference between the shadows and the main color of our macaroon here. And then I'm just going in and making like little squigglies to fill in any of the texture where I feel like we might need a little bit more. And I think we're ready to blend this one out. And again, use whatever blending method that you prefer. Okay, so I'm gonna take the 129 pencil and I'm gonna start putting this into our shadow area up here. Then I'm going to take the 095 and just put a bit of this sort of transitioning into that purple. And I'm going to put a bit of it just on the bottom here as well. Now I'm going to take the 599 and I'm going to lightly glaze over our little darker areas here. And I'm doing this pretty lightly because we can always go darker, but it's hard to lighten up once you've gone too dark. Just going to erase a little bit here where I just put a little bit of pencil that I didn't want. Just taking my Tombow mono eraser for that. Just to erase a little bit in there. I'm going to take the 083 and I'm going to start filling in this area down here, but just lightly, right in the middle where the icing part would be. And then I'm going to take that white pencil and I'm just going to glaze over right in the middle where you can see a little bit of the icing showing, just to make sure that this area stays a little bit lighter. Okay. And then I'm going to take the 083 and start filling in the rest of it, but I'm going to take our white again and just sort of do like a little bit of a white area here, and I'm just laying it down lightly so that when we put the pencil over, it won't go as dark here. And I'll come back and do some highlights in these ones after as well, once they've dried really well. Put some lighter areas in. And I'm not pushing hard for this because I don't want to prevent any color from going down. I just don't want like too much color to go in those areas. So then I'm going to go with the 083 and just start blending where our shadows are and filling the rest in. Then I'm going to take some of the 095 and I'm going to start filling in the shadow on the bottom here, but I'm not going to go all the way. I'm sort of going to concentrate it right under our macaroon here, and then I'm going to take the Payne's Gray and fill in the rest with that. And I'm just doing this to add a little bit of color to the shadow so it's not such a flat shadow. So then I'm going to go in with the Payne's Gray, and I'm going to just start filling in the rest of this shadow here. And I'm going to take that 599 and I'm just going to go in and darken any areas that I feel need it. Okay, and I'm just going to go back in with that white one more time and just make sure the middle area here will stay a little bit brighter, just in a couple of areas. Okay, and I think I'm ready to blend this out. And again, I'm going to start in the light and go to the dark. And I'm going to start blending out the middle area here. Okay, I'm going to start blending out this dark shadow on the bottom. And I'm going to start just concentrating right in the middle. And then as I get less OMS on my brush, I'm going to start to feather it out to create those lighter edges. Okay, so I'm going to start wiping off any extra on my brush. And I'm just going to start feathering the edges so that the shadow sort of blends out almost into nothing. Now I need to get just a little bit so I can start moving it around again. Okay, so I like how this is starting to look. Now in the next video, I think once this is all dry, we'll come back and refine some of our shadows, we'll refine some of our highlights, and then I might even go on top with the touch-up texture and titanium white from brush and pencil, just to add our brightest highlights to this. And then after that video, this tutorial series should be done, and then we'll move on to another one. I hope you guys are liking these sort of mostly real time with a little bit of sped up videos, because I find people learn better this way, to actually see what somebody's doing and have it explained rather than a 5-minute completely sped up. And yeah, so I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.